According to a new Gallup poll, more Americans than ever think that polygamy is morally acceptable. Let's talk about that today, Sarah.
Let's talk about it.
Gallup has measured American attitudes toward a number of social issues and behaviors such as divorce, same-sex relations, and stem cell research since 2001. In that time, the percentage of Americans who find polygamy to be morally acceptable has risen from 7 to 17%. Of all the issues and behaviors Gallup asked about, polygamy is among those to gain the most ground on moral acceptance since 2001, after same-sex relations, having a baby out of wedlock, sex between an unmarried man and woman, and divorce. So a big reason why this might have been is because Gallup actually changed the wording to the question that they were asking. In 2011, they were defining it as polygamy is when a husband has more than one wife at the same time. But polygamy, as we now understand it to be, is really a gender neutral concept. It's not just, it just doesn't have to be just a guy, It can be women as well. And they changed it to a married person has more than one spouse at a time. And they found that that drew a big spike, that coincided with a big spike in moral acceptability as reported by this Gallup poll. So some people are saying that polygamy is the next horizon of social liberalism. Sarah wanted to know the difference between polyamory and polygamy. I think that is a very fair question, so we asked Sophie, lovely Sophie, to hand us a cell phone with that definition. Polyamory is defined as the practice of or desire for intimate relationships with more than one partner with the knowledge of all partners. It has been described as consensual, ethical, and responsible non-monogamy. So in that, there is no marriage. What's important to note is that polygamy and bigamy are illegal in the US, but as the Utah Sister Wives show, it goes on anyway. Essentially, they mean the same thing. Someone has more than one spouse more often than not. It's when a man has more than one wife. In some states, the law uses the terms interchangeably. So bearing that in mind, let's come back to the initial question, which was, is the next horizon of social liberalism polygamy? As one scholar so says in this article from the Huffington Post.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think that it's a social issue that's a little bit ahead of our time. I think that there are people that are on board right now with it already, and I think exactly it's the next, social issue, I would say. I mean, do I think I could do it? No, I certainly do not.
No one asked that.
No, but I wanted to state that. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I don't think I could.
You just asked yourself, do I think I could do it? No. If Ryan Gosling asked me, maybe. Would I do it today? No. Maybe next week? Sure.
Grace?
Yeah. No. So, okay, so here's what I think about this. I think that a couple things come to mind. One, social progress is always going to be inevitable as we just grow as a human race. We come to understand different levels of intimacy and relationships and understanding. I think that is known across the board.
Yeah, I would agree.
You see how attitudes have changed with regards to same-sex marriage in such an amazing short time period, and a lot of that does have to do with people just knowing and having more visibility about the queer LGBT community. Also, though, I think that the changing of the wording obviously had a major effect on how people responded to this poll. So I think that also goes to show that how you identify certain groups and how you define them in a way that is, I think, very non-committal and neutral, like that they said a married person has more than one spouse at the same time rather than a husband has more than one wife at the same time. How that changed attitudes is quite remarkable. I see it myself just in reading those back. When I read a married person has more than one spouse at the same time, my initial reaction is like, yeah, a married consenting adult individual has more than one, yeah, I don't care what you do. But I do have this hesitation, which is likely prejudice in me. Husband has more than one wife at the same time, and I'm thinking like, a husband, like, well, how did he get these wives? And I don't know, you have like a negative connotation with a certain type of wording. So I do think that it's interesting to look at both things here. And also that we broke down, and I'm not sure how this video got edited because I know that Sarah and I had major shifts in the conversation trying to figure out our own definitions with regards to polygamy and polyamory. And I think that there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to these things. Now, is polygamy something that I'm interested in? No. Is polyamory something that I'm interested in? No. But I think that if you are consenting adults, and save for the cases of abuse, which I know that there have been in religious sects that have broken off from certain churches and have delved into polygamy.
But
like,
also important to note,
that's not something we're advocating.
But also important to note that it does say
that is a different story. So
well,
this
okay,
is the story.
the ending of the article did say that children that come from polygamy relationships tend to have a lot of social issues themselves. So I think that's also important to note. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying, you know, people can do what they want. Exactly what you're saying. Consenting adults who are respectful of one another, that's their choice, 100%. However, science has pointed to the fact that the children that come from their relationships have a lot of issues growing up.
So I think what you're pointing to is at the end of this article, it says, in addition to several high-profile cases of child abuse linked to polygamous groups, plural marriage has also been linked to genetic disorders, child development problems for the offspring of such unions, a number of social issues, including rape and substance abuse in societies where there's a disproportionate number of unmarried men as a result of polygamy, and even an increased risk of heart disease for polygamous men. So bearing that in mind, no one is saying here that polygamy is the future, but I think it is interesting to see how attitudes relax. But of course, you want to have oversight and make sure that everyone is healthy and taken care of and no one's doing anything illegal. But that said, we want to hear from you in the comments section below. Were you familiar with the differences between polygamy and polyamory, as we know we were? And also, what do you think about this Gallup poll? Do you think it had more to do with the wording or more to do with just what they say, a social liberalism that is taking place in the country right now? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, and we will see you next time on Pop Trigger.